you feel about one-run victories? Well, in this series, we've had a couple of one-run victories. In Game 1, Cliff Lee was as good as we've seen since the All-Star break. He hit double digits in strikeouts, 10 strikeouts, 2 hits allowed, 8 innings. Probably could have pitched a complete game, but instead they went to Papelbon at the end. He was brilliant against the Braves. He was trailing 1-0 in the 7th when Cody Ashe did this to Mike Minor, a 2-run home run that gave the Phillies a 2-1 lead. And as it turned out, that was all they needed for the victory. Last night, little different story. Kyle Kendrick was pitching backwards all night long. Not many sinkers. There was that slurve. There were a lot of changeups. There were a lot of cutters as well. He matched his career high in strikeouts with 8. He was pretty darn good. Phillies had the lead in the 9th inning, but then Jonathan Papelbon gives up a 2-run home run to Andrelton Simmons to tie the ball game up at 5 apiece. No worry, though. Freddie Garcia against Freddie Galvis, and it's Galvis who wins the Venezuelan battle by hitting a solo home run into the seats in right. And the celebration was underway as the Phillies walked off with another one-run victory. And now this afternoon, on an absolutely gorgeous day for baseball here in September, the Phillies and the Atlanta Braves wrap up this 3-game series at Citizens Bank Park. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy along with Chris Wheeler. Great night last night because the Phillies wound up winning the ball game, and electric the way they've been doing it. Now, the other thing that's been electric has been the starting pitching in this series for the Phillies, and we'll see if Cole Hamels can continue it today.
Well, he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball, Tom, probably all year. Maybe not statistically with his one loss, but when you watch him pitch the way we've been able to do all year, you know how good Cole Hamels has been. Last time out, just an outstanding effort against the Nationals, matched up against Steven Strasburg. Neither one of them was going to give up a whole lot in the game. Cole left after 7, Strasburg after 6. He established his fastball early, the way that he's done lately, and then used that devastating changeup, used his cutter, a few curveballs. But for the most part, he threw fastball in and out, that cutter, and threw that changeup and was really good. In his last 12 starts, outstanding job by Cole Hamels. One thing not on there, they don't score many runs for him, or he would even have more wins, but his numbers are just tremendous. You have a 2.717 earned run average in 12 starts, and you pitch a lot of games here and in some of the smaller ballparks. That's just really good.
Since the All-Star break, one of the best ERAs in the National League and in Major League Baseball overall, and also some of the best innings, most innings pitched for Hamels since the break as well. All right, he's opposed today by left-hander Paul Maholm. The Phillies know him pretty well, not only from his days with the Pirates, the Cubs, but also with these Braves.
Yeah, he's a sinker ball guy for the most part, but he can get hurt with fly balls for home runs. One of the reasons why he's so much better at home than he is on the road. He pitched 2 games against the Phillies this year. This was the 2nd game of the season. He was very, very effective in that start down in Atlanta. You see he'll mix his pitches up. He has 4 or 5 pitches that he can throw for strikes. As Tom mentioned, the Phillies are used to him because they saw him with the Pirates. Chase Utley still can't believe that curveball was called a strike. Now, when he came back here, Phillies hit him a little bit better in this ballpark. You see the home run goes out to right field. That was one that had to be reviewed. Ryan Howard hits a long home run off him right here where he just takes one look, and, well, he didn't even take a look. He just knew where that thing was headed. That was headed into the bullpen out there in center field. Maholm then went on the disabled list for a while, gave some other guys a chance to pitch. He's back right now. Look at the difference in his home and his road. As we mentioned, he's a sinker ball pitcher when he's on. When he's not, he's a fly ball pitcher. In that ballpark down in Atlanta, you can get away with a lot of fly balls that maybe you can't get away with on the road.
Well, we'll see if those numbers dictate success for the Phillies here this afternoon. They reached double digits in base hits last night. Some career highs for a couple of different guys as far as hits and walks go. We'll see if they continue that this afternoon. It's the final game of this 3-game series. Freddie Galvis, 4 hits in last night's ball game, including that walk-off home run. The 4 hits, a career high. He's back in the lineup. Where? In left field today. Lineups at first pitch when we return. Phillies baseball is brought to you Lady got a chance to go out to the mound today to talk with Cole Hamels before his start against the Atlanta Braves. Cole, of course, a dad, and I think made that young lady's day. And when they were playing the national anthem, she stood as close to him as possible. Maybe not as close as the young boy did next to Chase Utley out at second base, which is kind of neat to watch. Let's take a look at the Braves starting lineup today. It's brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. B.J. Upton leads it off in center field. Andrelton Simmons bats second. Freddie Freeman hits third, followed by Chris Johnson and Evan Gattis. Gerald Laird does the catching today for Brian McCann. Dan Uggla hits seventh. Joey Turdoslavich, the right fielder, bats eighth, and batting ninth and pitching is Paul Maholm. And they'll face Phillies left-hander Cole Hamels. Hamels comes into his 30th start of the year with a 6-13 record and an ERA that's going down with each passing start.
Yeah, and the Phils have won his last 5 starts, too. He hasn't had a decision in all of them, but the Phillies have been very successful in those games because of the fact that Cole has been so good.
So here we go. First pitch of the day to B.J. Upton, who struck out 4 times last night and has struck out 6 times in this series.
And 139 times overall this year. As you see the scouting report on Cole, fastball command has been outstanding lately. When that's there, then the other stuff is put away stuff.
There's a ground ball to shortstop, spinning out toward Rollins in time for the first out. So Upton is now 0 for 9 in this series. 1 away, and here's Andrelton Simmons.
Ryan Sandberg was kidding around before the game, laughing about that awful rundown play the Phillies had with Simmons last night. He said, yeah, we got to work on that a little bit. He says, but one of the things we had to do is find somebody who could catch him, which was a great point. He said, because they kept giving the ball up because nobody could catch him.
Yeah, Freddie Galvis pumped a few times to slow him up a little bit. First pitch to him in this at-bat is taken out on the outside corner, 0-1.
So we normally don't have a lot of underhand tosses in a rundown play. He said we had a couple, and we need to eliminate that. He said he thought maybe Jimmy Rollins could have caught him if he were out there.
Well, it still did the job, and it was a huge out at that point. Huge out at that point in the ball game.
And I told him I thought that we thought that was they were going to put that scoring number down for the 50-50.
1 ball and 1 strike to Simmons. Just inside, 2-1. Well, Simmons in the series is 4 for 7. He has a couple of home runs, including that one last night that tied the game at 5.
He'll jump some pitches if you do that. He's not necessarily a home run hitter, although, as you said, Tom, he has quite a few home runs this year.
15 overall, 52 runs batted in. That one's out toward left field. Playable for Freddie Galvis.
And the wind has turned around in the last half hour. The dry cold front supposed to come through, and it's really going to knock the ball down to left and left center right now. As we check out our keys to this afternoon's game from Nissan, and let's enjoy Cole Hamels the way he's pitching right now. He has been great. And why not keep Craig Kimbrell in the bullpen one more day? That's always a good sign.
Freddie Freeman hitting .307 with 19 home runs, 4th in the league in RBIs with 96. First pitch is low, 1-0. Freeman is 3 for 8 in the series. He has hit in 5 straight. He's had a solid year across the board.
Yeah, he's a guy you look at as MVP candidate right now. When you look at the numbers that he puts up and how good a defensive first baseman he is too.
Yeah, it's surprising when they talk about MVP candidates that his name is now sliding into the conversation.
Well, he just keeps it up. He keeps producing.
That curveball looked pretty good, but Dan Bellino, the home plate umpire, did not call it a strike, so it's 2-1. Freddie Freeman will be followed by Chris Johnson. Outside, 3-1.
Hitters are going to get help to right and right center now, and ball will be knocked down to left and left center field as the wind's really picked up. See the flags blowing out there. Now the northwest.
Hey, it was a peaceful morning. Bright blue sky, bright sunshine skies, blue skies. Conditions now 83 degrees and breezy, somewhat tropical.
Temperature will be going down as the game goes along, and Sarge will probably need a heavy jacket today or maybe a gray sweater.
Well, before it gets too cool, Wheels, we want you to enjoy some Turkey Hill ice cream. During the 2013 season, Turkey Hill contributes $100 for each Phillies victory and 5 cents for each carton of Phillies Grand Slam ice cream, sold to support the Phillies youth baseball and softball programs. Swing and a miss. He got it with a changeup. Strikeout number 175 on the year for Cole Hamels, and he sets the Braves down in order on 14 pitches here in the first. A ground out, a fly out, and then the strikeout of Freddie Freeman. Phillies are coming up right after this. Settling into his normal spot, the dugout. Let's take a look at his starting lineup for today's ball game. It's brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Cesar Hernandez leads it off at center, followed by Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley. Darren Ruff, the right fielder, bats cleanup. Kevin Franzen hits fifth. Cody Ashe sixth, followed by the bottom third of Freddie Galvis, Eric Kratz, and Cole Hamels, and they will face left-hander Paul Maholm. Maholm 10-10 this year for the Braves with an earned run average of 4.41.
Maholm, the ultimate in guys that spot the baseball. Moves it all around. He gives up a lot of hits. Not a big walker, strikeout guy. Left-handed hitters only 206 against him. He has allowed 14 home runs, but he'll throw 3, 4, 5 different pitches. Try to move it all over the place. He will pitch inside to right-handed batters too. As you look at our scouting report on him, fastball will top off at 90. He'll average around 87, 88, and there are all those pitches. And he tries to throw ground balls.
Cesar Hernandez shows bunt, takes strike one. We've seen Hernandez do that a few times. He had a nice night last night. Overall, he's 3 for 9 in the series. His average up to 271.
Great idea to show that, even if you don't do it, because he has the corners way up.
He had 3 hits last night with a couple runs scored. In fact, the top 4 hitters in the lineup for the Phils, 10 for 19 with 5 runs scored and 4 runs batted in. Here's the 0-2 pitch to Hernandez. Inside, it hit him. No, maybe it didn't. He's saying it hit him. Oh, it did hit him.
Break him on him right in the front, looked like. Maholm went away with the first couple pitches, then tried to come inside with a breaking ball, and he hits him. Oh, yeah. When you talk about a back foot slider, that's a back foot slider. Well, the idea for the back foot slider for the pitcher is a guy to swing and miss at it.
Cesar looked a little sheepish.
It didn't even hurt. It was like, do I get first base for that?
Here's Jimmy Rollins. He didn't play in last night's game. 1 for 3 in game 1. And he takes high. It's 1-0.
Cesar Hernandez is very polite. That's not surprising to see him react that way.
Among the leaders in stolen bases down in the minor leagues. He's been thrown out 1 time so far here in the big leagues. And Rollins a little late on that pitch. Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Susan Johnson from Hamilton, New Jersey. Phillies hit a home run in today's ball game, and Susan will win $100.
9 out of 10 successful base stealers against Maholm. He can be real quick with his times when he uses that slide step.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
Not as quick when he uses the full leg kick.
Rollins lays off this time. 2 balls and 2 strikes to him. Rollins' lifetime is 9 for 28 against Mahalam. Inside, 3-2.
Great time to run here. The only thing is he swung and missed at a couple pitches. So whether or not that would stop Ryan Sandberg from starting him, I think they'll run here.
Swung and missed at a couple pitches. Looked a little awkward too when he was swinging at those.
He was late. But really, you should make contact on Mahalam. He's more of a ground ball guy.
Hernandez does not go, and the pitch is fouled away. I don't know if he's seeing the ball out of his hand.
He was supposed to go, but you don't go until the pitch is thrown to the plate. And he wasn't sure, so he made sure that he didn't get picked off. And that's the right thing to do for a young player. But he was supposed to run there, and I'm sure he is again. But his first duty right there is don't get picked off.
3 balls, 2 strikes to Rollins. And a throw over, and he's going to get picked off. The throw is wide, but handled by Simmons.
They saw the whole thing, and it's just a shame that would happen, because they saw that he was going to go right there and that he was so hesitant, and they figured he may go on first movement this time, and he does. Right here, first movement, and he goes, and they got him. All it takes is a good throw from Freeman, and that is a base running blunder.
3-2 to Rollins, and there's ball 4. So Rollins is aboard. There's our Hernandez. You know, he knows what he did. Sure wants some. Well, we'll talk to him when he sees him in the dugout.
It was a very good job too by the Braves to throw over.
Sure.
After they saw that the first time.
Chase Utley 2 for 8 in this series. 4 doubles and a home run, so 5 extra base hits against Mahalam during his career. Only 1 RBI. Rollins takes, or excuse me, Utley takes high, 1-0.
See Mahalam throwing his fastball in the area of 86, 87, 88. Showed on the scouting report he may top off at 90, but he doesn't do that very often. He doesn't want to. Well, I would say he doesn't want to. But his style of pitching is that really doesn't help him when he throws that hard, because he's trying to sink it.
Since the All-Star break, Mahalam is 1-2 with an earned run average of 6.98. This is only his 5th start since the break, because he was on the disabled list.
Did a real good job for them early in the year.
They won 9 games, lost 8 before the break. Rollins goes, pitch is taken outside, throw to second by Laird, not in time. Simmons dropped the ball anyway. Stolen base number 19 for Rollins.
There's the example of the slow time from Mahalam. Jimmy picked the right time to run. He did the big leg kick, and he doesn't throw very hard, so it's tough for his catcher. See, he goes on, he's had the movement down. Laird does all he can do. As Tom said, Simmons doesn't even catch the ball, but he's safe anyway.
Simmons was trying to grab it and apply the tag very quickly. Utley hits it the opposite way. That'll go foul and out of play. Phillies have already won the series, taking the first 2 games against the Braves. They've only won 4 series since the All-Star break. They would love to sweep out Atlanta today. Miami's already leading Washington down in Florida. Utley hits it toward left center field. That's going to split the gap, but it's going to go all the way to the wall, and the Phillies will take the lead. Rollins softly trots home from second. Utley's at second, an RBI double. It's a 1-0 game.
Chase Utley's been hitting a lot of balls the other way lately, which is a really good sign, especially off left-handed pitchers. Defenses that started to play him as a dead pull hitter, almost like Ryan Howard, they can't do that right now because he hits the ball that way. And Upton was shaded towards right center on him, so once he hits that slicer towards the gap in left center field, nothing's going to stop that except the State Farm sign.
23 doubles now for Utley. He's in scoring position. Ruff the hitter. He takes inside. Darren Ruff last night walked 3 times. That's a career high in walks. He had some excellent at bats.
He was seeing the ball really well last night, as opposed to some games lately where he'd been late or chasing bad balls.
1 ball, no strikes to Ruff. Back toward the middle, off the glove of Mahalam. It leaks into center field. Utley's around third. He's storming home. It's an RBI single. 2-0 Phils.
Yeah, 2 things makes that run possible. Mahalam doesn't field it, and then he slows it up so much that there's no problem for Utley to score from second base. So they got everything they wanted out of that.
RBI number 22 for Darren Ruff.
Here it is. It's a hard ground ball off a changeup, and he just slows it up and it dribbles into center field. Chase Utley scores easily. Think about it, he really hasn't retired a batter yet.
No, you're right. Hernandez hit by a pitch, was caught stealing on a pickoff. And now Kevin Franzen. Franzen had his best night of the year offensively. Well, one of his best nights. That day in Chicago was pretty good when he came off the bench for a triple and a home run. But he had 3 hits, which tied his career high in yesterday's game.
Cole Hamels, there's Jimmy Rollins scoring. Cole Hamels on the bench, and they got me 2 already. That's nice.
Sure is. One ball and 1 strike to Franzen, whose average is at .228 with 5 home runs and 22 runs batted in. Out toward right field. Going back on it is Terdoslavich, and he'll make the catch. Ball kind of jumped on him at the last moment. There are 2 outs. Here comes Cody Ashe.
Yeah, that's a little indication of the help you're going to get from the wind out that way right now.
Rollins talking to Sandberg. First pitch is over for a strike. I wonder if Sandberg was reminding Jimmy not to shut it down as much as he shut it down coming around third on that base hit by Chase Utley.
I don't think you and I wonder at all about that. We don't know what they're talking about. But he's pretty hands-on in that dugout about when he sees something he may not particularly care for. That's what we've heard.
1 ball, 1 strike to Ashe. Swing and a miss. 1-2. One ball and 2 strikes to Ashe. Dribbler foul, and it remains 1-2. Ashe overall hitting .276 on the year. That ball got a piece of Laird, the catcher. Two guys helping the Phils score a couple runs in this inning.
2 guys that helped the Phils score a lot of runs. That's the best swing he's had at Mahalam. He's pulling off him a little bit, and I think it's more that his timing, he's disrupting his timing because he doesn't throw real hard as opposed to being nasty.
Dan Bellino calling the balls and strikes today. Tim Welke, the crew chief, at first. Bruce Dreckman at second, and Mike Everett around to third. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Ashe. He pulls it foul over toward Murph. Could have made a little better effort at that, Murph. I think that's what Wally Joyner's trying to tell you right now.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah.
He's disappointed in me. I'm fine with my effort.
It's tough when the coaches are getting on you from the field. Really.
2 balls and 2 strikes.
Never get too much instruction, though, in this game, Murph.
That's true. Next time I got that.
Yeah.
I think you should start carrying a glove down there. You'd be all over the place if you made a play.
I think I'd just carry a mask, and I could use it for the post game too.
That's a good point.
Snorkel.
Ashe hits it out toward left field. Gaddis on the run toward the track, makes the catch down at his waist, and again the wind knocked that ball down. Side is retired. The Phillies score 2. An RBI double by Utley, an RBI single by Ruff. On top 2-0. Series against the San Diego Padres. All 3 games are night games. On Tuesday, it'll be Tyler Cloyd making the start for the Phillies against Andrew Kashner for the San Diego Padres. Game time is 7:05, and tickets can be purchased at Phillies.com. Chris Johnson leads it off here in the top of the second. Phillies up 2-0. Johnson takes a fastball. It's 0-1. Johnson at .332. He's tops in the league in batting average. Mentioned he's been battling with Michael Kadire and Yadier Molina for the last several weeks for the top spot in hitting. Molina and the Cardinals will take on the Pirates today. Meanwhile, Kadire will be in San Diego to take on the Padres. No balls, 2 strikes. Woo. Moving his feet.
That's a great idea, especially when you throw changeups away to get right-handed hitters out. There's that old expression in baseball about move your feet once in a while. That's moving his feet. He got them both up in the air.
Out of play. He comes back with another fastball.
Yeah, because the hitter's thinking right there he's going to get changeup away when you do that from Hamels. So they come back inside with another fastball. Now you get a real guessing game going on with a good hitter who will take the ball the other way with 2 strikes. Eric Kratz and Hamels not quite sure. Not on the same page right there. By the way, Carlos Ruiz is fine today. Going to go breaking ball here. Cutter.
Yep. 2-2.
So he's just keep pounding him inside. Maybe it's because Johnson's shown the ability to hit the ball the other way so much that they're doing this.
It's one of the attributes that he's picked up this year, his ability to hit the ball the other way with 2 strikes. He went with the changeup finally. It remains 2-2.
Ryan said that Carlos got hit on the collarbone last night, or up right above the shoulder on that backswing in the 9th inning, and that he was pretty sore, but he was going to play Kratz today anyway, and that Ruiz could play, but he had a day off schedule.
Kratz and Hamels have not locked up since the 5th of June. That was against the Marlins. On the inside corner, Came back with a fastball, second strikeout for Hamels. One away here in the second.
Just kept pounding Chris Johnson inside. In, and finally in for the out. And that was a good pitch.
Take a look at our Mazda leaders. Cole Hamels and John Lannon sit atop the active leaderboard in victories against the Braves. Hamels is 13-8 lifetime, an ERA of 3.60.
The most lifetime starts against the Braves of any team, which would make sense. Marlins are second.
Evan Gattis, 241 overall. 16 home runs, 48 runs batted in. That ball is crushed deep to center field. There is no doubt that's going to be gone. Wow, onto Ashburn Alley.
Ooh, baby.
That is a big man's home run. It's a 2-1 ball game.
Wow.
It's one of the longest home runs you'll ever see hit at this ballpark.
Yeah, you don't find many out there. Look at that. Look at McCann. Like, ooh, did you see that? He is mule strong, that guy.
It's over 450, 460 feet.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they say on this. We're talking about watching him in BP on Friday night, how far he hits it. This thing, he just launches it. And he put his head down, too, to his credit. You think you want to stand there and watch that one a little bit. On to Ashburn Alley and deep into Ashburn Alley.
Fly ball to shallow right. Darren Ruff comes in.
Fans are out there saying, what, you got a BP ball here? For this, the way they didn't take BP today.
Ryan Howard has the longest home run here at Citizens Bank Park. That went over the bricks in center field by a pretty good distance. That thing was.
That's a long one.
I think Hunter Pence has the longest home run in baseball this year. He hit one, I know, down in Miami, but there was another place that he hit one. He crushed one.
Yeah, it was in Denver.
Well, that's right. It was in Denver. It went over the bleachers in Denver.
Right.
Here's Uglo, goes the other way. A foul ball. It's 0-1.
We're out in the parking lot.
Can't wait to see what the distance is on that one.
Well, they have coordinates, and sometimes it. Look at they're going like, you got to be kidding me how far that went, because they played a lot of games here. This team. Now look, that's where it went. I know you didn't watch it. How about him putting his head down, just running after he hit it, too?
That's why he didn't know where it landed.
Sure. You'd think he'd want to watch that one.
Plus, he did hit it into the wind.
Yeah, he didn't get a whole lot of help.
Thank goodness. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Uglo.
All the wind did on that one was take it from Tony Luke's sign over towards that red umbrella to the right of it. I was watching the path of it.
Swing and a miss. Uglo is down on strikes. 3 strikeouts for Hamels. But a run for the Braves on a long home run by Evan Gattis. We go to the bottom of the second. certainly put a charge into this pitch from Freddie Garcia. He hit this ball a ton when you think about how far it went.
Yeah, especially since it was slow, too. It was a hanging splitter. The replays kept getting better and better where you could see it just tumbling up there like that and stayed up in the zone. And he had a really good swing at it, too.
Well, David Clark won $100 in our McDonald's home run jackpot, but there's a little bit more to it, Murph. Take it away.
Well, it certainly is, and it's our cold hard fact today, brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. With that walk-off home run last night, Freddie Galvis became the first player in Phillies history to have a walk-off home run from both sides of the plate. You remember back on May 19th, he hit one off Aroldis Chapman to win the game. That one was from the right side of the plate. Last night's from the left side of the plate. No one in Phillies history has ever done that. That is amazing. The last major leaguer to do it, guys, back in 2006, 2007, Carl Everett did it for Seattle.
That ball was blooped to center, and Freddie Galvis, as long as that home run was, that's how short that single was to center field. You know, Murph, we were talking in the room today. We were trying to think about it. Scott Fransky was in there, too, and he was the one that brought it up. And we were thinking about who could have ever done it. We thought maybe Victorino, but Victorino, he had a walk-off, but it was from one side of the plate.
Yeah, he's only ever had one in his career. There's about 12 guys in Phillies history that have had more than one walk-off, but none of those guys were switch hitters. And Freddie Galvis, the first one to be a switch hitter, and then the first one to do it from both sides of the plate. You got in over 100 years of baseball.
Wow.
It's remarkable.
Steve Jeltz hit in one game, hit a home run from both sides of the plate.
That, yeah.
And it was the night that Jim Rooker said if the Pirates lose this game, he'll walk back to Pittsburgh. and we all know what happened after that. But Jeltz won it with a home run right-handed. A walk. I'm trying to remember which one came first. But anyway, he did win it with a walk-off home. Right.
But his other home run, not a walk-off.
Right.
So, yeah, both sides of the plate in one game, which is also pretty remarkable.
Pretty remarkable.
Eric Kratz is now the hitter.
And we're telling the story about, I used to go up to Montreal, come into Mirabel, which was 9,000 miles outside of town, it seemed like. 4 o'clock in the morning, so to amuse everybody, they'd have a little bet, first bag off the carousel. His came off first that night. That was a perfect day and night for him.
Kratz bounces it foul, 0-2. By the way, home run distance, the home run by Gaddis is an estimated 441 feet. I think it went farther than that, but 441. It's not even in the top 30 in longest home runs in baseball this year. Longest home run, we mentioned it before, Hunter Pence, 476 feet on August 27th.
There's a 482 back there. It looked like he was going to hit it.
Yeah.
Up by Whitey's statue.
So ball's 2 strikes to Kratz, and a throw over to first. Galvis is back.
Anyway, no matter how far it went, that's one of those ones you'll never forget, and you'll feel honored to have seen it. Because not only did it go that far, it stayed in the air forever. It was so high.
Swing and a miss, and Kratz is struck out. First strikeout for Maholm, and Hamels is coming up.
Hall can be proud of that. Say that he supplied the energy behind that.
Hamels takes a look over at Juan Samuel. I think he's buttoned here to put him in a scoring position.
Yeah. Left.
And he does bunt, and it's a good one. Laird says he has it. Sacrifice is successful. And there are 2 outs. Monday, September 16th, the Phillies and the Miami Marlins will get together here at Citizens Bank Park for their last series in Philadelphia. That first game is the final Hatfield Dollar Dog Night here at Citizens Bank Park. Tickets can be purchased anytime by going to Phillies.com. Here's Cesar Hernandez, who was hit by a pitch his first time up. Hernandez was then picked off first.
Boy, they play deep in the outfield. Center field is up, and that's how the first hit occurred on the blooper by Galvis. He's really deep now. He can get another run on a base hit out there.
Breaking ball. It's 0-1.
You see how deep Upton plays in center field.
Ground ball toward the hole. Johnson's there. The third baseman cuts it off. The side is retired. 5-3 on the putout. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 man left in scoring position. We've completed 2 innings here in Philadelphia, and the Phils have the early lead. Log on to Phillies.com. Go to the fans section for all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. Wales, the question is, which Brave holds the club's single-season record with 29 intentional walks in a season while batting? Not pitchers.
Right. Who didn't issue them, but received them.
Who received them, correct.
I don't know.
Here's Terdoslavich. Swing and a miss at a changeup, 0-1.
I wonder what Bonds' number was for most intentional walks in the season. They look that up sometime.
He didn't play for the Braves, though.
No, but
just using it for reference.
Would he be? You think the guy who do the most intentional walks in a season?
Without looking, I would say yes. Franzen able to keep his foot on the bag on that throw by Cody Ashe, 1 away.
Because there was a period of time there where they just kept walking Bonds all the time. It's a nice job by Kevin Franzen to stretch out and keep his foot on the bag and get the first out of the inning.
Going to bring Maholm to the plate, a 130 hitter. All right, Barry Bonds, 120 intentional walks in 2004.
In one season?
Yeah, 45 used to be the record by McCovey.
Knew he got a lot one year, but 120 something?
Yeah, 120 in 04, 68 in 02.
That's remarkable.
And 61 in 03.
Keep going. Maybe you'll find a Brave in there with 29.
I can't go that far because I'm almost there.
Okay.
Maholm, a swing and a miss, 3-2.
Almost got you. No, I didn't. Not even close.
No, you did almost get me.
Tried to make it sound it was just point of reference.
4 strikeouts for Hamels as he gets Maholm looking. Yeah, there are 2 outs here in the third.
120 some intentional walks in one
lot.
season.
Yep.
Jim Fregosi probably gave him about 50 of them. Seemed like he'd walk him all the time.
Here's B.J. Upton. He grounded out his first time up, so he's 0 for 1. And it's 0-1. By the way, that Gaddis home run, not to belabor the point, but 441 feet. It's the longest home run this year here at Citizens Bank Park. As we mentioned, it's not the longest one ever. I still think that's Ryan Howard who has that.
Over the bricks out there.
Yeah. Ashe charges and throws out B.J. Upton. It's an easy inning for Hamels. A couple of ground outs to Ashe to strike out. So through 3, Hamels has allowed just 1 hit, the home run to Gaddis. We'll go to the bottom of the 3rd. Jimmy Rollins will lead it off. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. And by W.B. Mason, you can't go wrong when you buy right. A lot of work being done on the field today. Grounds crew was out here very early, making sure that everything was manicured properly.
Yeah, they had the field to themselves today. No BP.
Yeah, for either team. Got here about 9 o'clock this morning, and Freddie Gonzalez was walking around the warning track, getting his exercise in. The manager of the Braves. The grounds crew was already out there, hard at work. Jimmy Rollins leads it off. Phillies up 2-1. Rollins takes high. He walked and scored his first time up.
Looked a little high.
It did.
Especially since he was trying not to swing at that pitch his first time.
Out towards left, playable for Gaddis. A few steps from the track. Tomorrow is the night Arsenio's big premiere takes place. Don't miss a minute of TV's biggest comeback ever. Arsenio's bringing the party back to late night. Arsenio Hall tomorrow at 11 right here on PHL 17.
Thanks to Carl Graver for looking this up for us. Steve Jeltz hit a home run the 4th inning of that game, left-handed off Bob Walk, and his second home run, the one that ended it, was off a left-hander, Bob Kipper. Don't remember Bob Kipper.
I remember getting Bob Kipper always messed up with Bob Nipper.
Nepper. Yeah, sure, the left-hander for Houston and other teams.
Chase Utley takes high.
The K was silent. He was not a Knepper.
No.
And then Bob Walk wound up in the broadcast booth after Jim Rooker walked back to Pittsburgh.
Right. Bob Walk will never, ever echo those words that he'll walk back anywhere.
Never. You try to get other people to say that sometimes, and they're smart enough not to, having lived through it. Watched it happen to poor Jim Rooker, although he did a lot for charity with that.
2 balls and no strikes to Utley. He doubled home a run and then scored a run his last time. That was back in the 1st. Phillies scored 2 in the 1st. And it's 3-0. Taking all the way. Toyota Major League Scoreboard, the Nationals were down 3-1 at one point in this ball game, but they've tied up the Marlins. Wilson Ramos, a home run. He has 2 hits overall. Nationals won yesterday, so the Braves' magic number is still at 9 to win the National League East.
Yeah, Philly stalled them a little bit here this weekend.
That's good.
Yeah.
They fouls it off again. 2 hour left.
Ryan Sandberg's feeling with that is, even though, you know, you look at these games and it's, you know, you're in kind of the so what mode. His feeling is playing against these teams and playing well against them, all right, but it makes the players feel, some of them, that they can compete up here at this level. It could help them next year.
Absolutely.
Some of the younger ones, because they're playing against teams who really care, and they're facing their frontline pitching.
I think the other thing too, as strange as it sounds, maybe it doesn't sound strange, is that for Ryan, I mean, he wants to make sure that people know that he wants this job. He wants to make sure the effort is put together as well as much as possible. And there he is earlier today talking to Cesar Hernandez after he's picked off first.
About the base running.
So he's at 12-10 under Sandberg. Fly ball left field, not deep. Gaddis comes running in. Simmons is out, battling the wind, makes the catch, and there are 2 outs. The video game that puts you in the owner's suite is now available free on your iPhone and iPad. Build your stadium and make the decisions to guide your team to the World Series. Download MLB Ballpark Empire free today. Data and usage rates may apply. So after Utley's 8-pitch at bat, there are 2 outs. All right, so Jay McLaughlin, who does the internal PA here at Citizens Bank Park in the press box, does a great job. Just announced that they have looked at video of Evan Gaddis' home run, and they've decided that it wasn't 441 feet, it was 480 feet.
Sounds more like it.
I would think it does sound more like
that.
It
Was a bomb's bomb right there. Remember we talked about the 482?
It was awfully close to that.
Yeah.
It's still not the longest one in Citizens Bank Park history. It's Ryan Howard's 505 feet.
Over that center field wall, over the ivy,
wall,
the bricks, everything out there.
Pitch to Ruff is up and in.
He hit that off the Marlins, I think.
But it is longer than Ryan Howard. Ryan Howard had a 496-foot shot at one point in 07. I think it's 3rd longest now at Citizens Bank, if my numbers are correct here.
Well, it was majestic, but it only counted as 1 run.
Yeah. Two balls and 2 strikes to Darren Ruff, and a call, strike 3. Side is retired. Second strikeout for Mahalam. Phillies go down in order. We've played 3. The guy just gained some yardage on his home run this afternoon. One as Chase Utley goes to work against Andrelton Simmons, Freddie Freeman, and Chris Johnson. Hamels has allowed just one hit. It was the home run by Evan Gattis, which we now know is the longest home run in baseball this year, surpassing Hunter Pence's 476-foot home run on the 27th of August. 480 feet for Evan Gattis. Andrelton Simmons flied out to left, so he's 0 for 1. The first pitch from Hamels at the knees. It's 0-1.
Kind of looked like he picked on a high fastball.
Ground ball softly to short. Rollins has to hurry and does. One away. Hungry for some winning baseball while the Phillies fight to keep you satisfied on the field? WB Mason has the bases covered in the break room. With an all-star selection of food and beverage products, WB Mason will satisfy all your cravings. Here's Freddie Freeman. Well, I think you're right, Sarge. I think it was a high fastball, and he certainly did pick on it.
Yeah, I actually went in and talked with both Don Sutton and Larry Anderson. Because he's given up some of those kind of long home runs, but believe it or not, Mr. Sutton said he's given up some like that too. Willie Stargell in particular.
He would have.
Then they didn't want to say anything or talk about it. There he is, Hall of Famer, Don Sutton. They get a little testy when you talk about long home runs. In the very beginning, when they said, 440, 441, I mean, and Howard's home run, I was saying, wow, Howard didn't hit it that much further than that one. But when you hear it at the stadium, you can't believe, first of all, it's that loud, and second of all, that it's going that far.
2-2 to Freeman. Well, it sounded so pure off the bat. You know what I mean, Sergeant?
Oh.
There was no real thud. You know, it was in the perfect spot on the bat. I mean,
yeah, you don't even you literally don't even feel it when it comes off the bat. All you do is you hear a loud sound, but you know it was gone.
Rollins backhands, has time, fires to first in time to get Freeman. Excellent play by Jimmy Rollins. And there are 2 outs here in the top of the 4th.
Pretty good play as he backhand that ball. Freddie Gonzalez, their manager, he has every one of these guys hustling, and they hustle just like this as they barely got him at first base.
With 2 outs, Chris Johnson's the batter. Outside, 1-0. Johnson struck out looking his first time.
I don't think he was too happy about that.
Well, he's been known to bang a helmet or 2.
Well, this game here will cause you some frustration. I don't know how you can keep it bottled up inside the way that some players do. I kind of like the way he's starting to mix up his pitches. Curveball and cutter, fastball.
Chopper left side. Ashe charges. Bare hands. Throws on the run. And in time, Franzen hung on to the bag. Great play all the way around to retire the side in order. Boy, the Phillies are playing some exceptional defense in this game. A couple of really good plays in this inning alone, including that one by Ashe. And on the other end, Kevin Franzen. It'll be Kevin Franzen, Cody Ashe, and Freddie Galvis due up against Paul Maholm. Cole Hamels, through the first 4 innings today, has allowed just the 1 hit, the home run by Evan Gattis. So he'll get a chance to take a breather as the Phillies will get a chance to face Maholm here in the bottom of the 4th. Franzen flied out to right. His first time up. Franzen takes strike 1. It's 0-1. Franzen hit one to fairly deep right field his first time up. And off the mound, a base hit for Franzen. He's putting together some good swings these last few days. Phillies baseball is brought to you by the Quality Plus Ford stores. Go further. By Citizens Bank, where good banking is good citizenship. Isn't it time you experience good banking? And by Toyota. Toyota's nationwide clearance event is going on now. Toyota, let's go places. Cody Ashe flied to left his first time up. He hit the ball hard. Curveball, and it's 0-1.
I think he's proven that he can handle a fastball. He's been getting good swings on him. Good balance he's had at the plate. Start to have that balance, you'll start to recognize pitches like that off-speed breaking pitch.
I think the thing that stands out, Sergeant, you would know it better than I would, are the adjustments that he's able to make during the course of an at-bat or from at-bat to at-bat.
Good point, too, though, because you want to make those during the course of the at-bat. Thought that was maybe a little low, but just a little bit jumpy. Again, that's why you do want to have the slow feet. Everything will come together. You're able to see the ball a little bit quicker when you pick up the spin of it.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Ashe. Outside, 2-2.
Pitchers that can't throw that ball by you, make sure that you're not afraid to hit with the 2 strikes. And when you do get them, zone them down. Make sure you get it down. And you'll have a little better success.
Franzen takes a look over at Juan Samuel with nobody out. The count 3 balls and 2 strikes. A guy that has been making contact.
Yeah, I've always been aggressive. I like that 3-2 run for me.
He does not go, and the pitch is lined down the right field line. That'll hook foul. Alicia wanted to catch that one out of the air. It was kind of waffling at her, though. Nice recovery.
Pretty good try. That ball was hooking. That ball was hooking down. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm. Swing and a miss. Ashe is struck out. 3rd strikeout for Maholm. And that'll bring Freddie Galvis to the plate.
See what spot he actually put this pitch in, and just off the plate a little bit.
Freddie Galvis singled to center his first time up. 5 for 9 now in this series. Inside, 1 ball and no strikes.
Brings a lot of energy every time he's in the game. got a big league glove. There's no doubt about it, especially at shortstop. Big league arm. He just needs to have that bat catch up to it. He's been getting pretty good hits.
Well, it was nice to see what he was able to do last night, picking up the 4 hits. And again today, because counting his time before he went to the minors, he had been 0 for his last 17. You know that kind of weighs on guys' minds a little bit. They want to make an impact when given the opportunity. The home run last night certainly made an impact.
And the other thing is, too, they know the manager and Sandberg, and does make it a little easier to play for someone that you do know. Not as nervous. And not only that, though, here's a guy that didn't start off too well himself in Sandberg.
Shallow left field. Simmons, the shortstop, into foul territory and makes the catch. So there are 2 outs here in the 4th inning. And that'll bring Eric Kratz to the plate. By the way, last night's victory for the Phils in their final at bat was their 12th walk-off and 34th come from behind victory on the season. They trailed that game yesterday to the Braves early on, and then were able to take the lead before the Braves tied it in the 9th. Oh, and 1 to Kratz. He struck out his first time.
Well, all the games are important at this particular point, and especially teams that would be in first place. This shows that you're not really lying down and just wanting the season to get over with. Lionel talked about the importance of now thinking sweep. Whether or not you do it or not, that's one thing, but that's where your thought process should be in trying to sweep them now. And that just doesn't happen a lot to the Atlanta Braves, especially this year.
Well, Freddie Gonzalez has done a pretty good job this year helping this team to maintain a certain level. You know, they've been streaky at times, but they've also been, since the All-Star break, a pretty consistent club.
And you want them to be consistent, because if you're going into the playoffs, you don't want them to have to turn it on. You want to have it already on. And the way that you do that is by making sure that you continue to play your players, and the name of the game is to win.
Ground ball toward the hole. Simmons slides, pops back up, fires to first in time to get Kratz. Well, he's made some highlight reel plays in this series, and that one was probably the best we've seen from Andrelton Simmons. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 man left. Top of the fifth inning, the Phillies on top 2-1 over the Atlanta Braves as Cole Hamels is set to go back to work against Evan Gattis, Gerald Laird, and Dan Uggla. Phillies scored their 2 in the first. The Braves scored 1 in the second on Gattis' 480-foot home run. According to HitTrackerOnline.com, the 480-foot home run is the longest of the year in baseball. Logan Morrison hit one the other day that was estimated at the time as 484, but HitTracker now says that it was 467. Hunter Pence hit one earlier this year in August that was 476. And Gattis hits one towards center again. Hernandez going back. This time he has room and he makes the catch. And there's one away. Look at Cole Hamels.
That's another fastball.
Well, before the ball game, the Phillies honored a person who was honored earlier this year. You know, People magazine had their People Tribute for Heroes representation at the All-Star game in New York City, and the Phillies representative was Lou Nam. And he got a chance to be out on the field before the ball game today. Nice round of applause for him. And he's having himself a great day at the ballpark, and he is now sitting with Murph. Murph?
Yeah, it is my pleasure to be sitting next to Lou Nam, who got a great round of applause when introduced out on the field today. Lifelong Phillies fan. We won't tell folks that he used to sneak in at Connie Mack every once in a while when he couldn't get a ticket, but it must have been quite a moment down on the field today. That was nice.
Oh, that was very nice. In retrospect, down here at Citizens Bank Park, I've also been down at Veterans Stadium, so this is a nice contrast.
Now, Tom mentioned that you were honored during the All-Star festivities, the Tribute to Heroes. You were the Philadelphia Phillies organization representative, chosen out of hundreds and hundreds of different applicants. Tell us about that night in New York City. That had to be pretty special as well.
Oh, yeah, that was a fantastic moment to have 45,000 people cheering you on. We walked out of the dugouts, the National League side and the American League side, and placed ourselves out there, and then of course, Dominic Brown was the one who came over and handed me the flag that had been flown here on the 21st of June. It was quite a thrill. It was really quite a thrill.
We should tell folks at home, as Cody Ashley makes another nice play down there at third base, you received 2 Purple Hearts for your efforts in Vietnam, where you lost both your legs. You know, that moment right there when folks come up to you, I saw a couple folks shaking your hand just as I was coming down the aisle. That has to mean a lot to you, does it not?
Well, it's nice to be recognized and to be thanked for the service that you have. Back in the day when we came home, the environment and wasn't quite that well, and we didn't get any parties or any parades coming home. It was we were just kind of swept under the door.
Well, it is different now, certainly the climate, and what you guys did is certainly appreciated. And nowadays, you work with veterans coming home, and also you work with some golfers. You get the veterans back out on the golf course so they can enjoy that great game as well.
Right. I work with the VA hospital as their chief instructor for the Veterans Amputee First Swing and Next Step Clinic that takes place every year, twice a year, once in April and once in September. On September 26th, the Next Step Clinic will be held at Pittman Golf Course. It's where we have an outing for amputee veterans who have learned the game and are playing. And I enjoy it very much. I've played the game now for about 20 years, and it's a game that can be used to rehabilitate the veterans who are coming home with amputees and with all kinds of wounds. And we try to use it as such and get them out, get them moving, get them exercise. It's a great thing. And then, like you said, I am still working for the VA at the regional office in the vocational rehabilitation program. I work with other disabled veterans as they're coming home to get them back into the community, to get them trained, to help get them jobs, and that's very fulfilling as well.
Well, you continue to do great work, Lou. We appreciate it, and on behalf of everybody in the Phillies organization, thank you for everything that you did.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, we'll send it back upstairs.
All right, Murph, thank you very much. Our thanks to Lou, too. Did a great job before the ball game, and, of course, the crowd did the same. Cole Hamels, outstanding. He's retired 11 straight since that home run. We go to the bottom of the fifth. It's 2-1 Phils. against the New York Mets. 3-game series. It culminates on Sunday the 22nd. That's Fan Appreciation Day. All fans coming to Citizens Bank Park will receive the 2014 scheduled magnet. That's compliments of Independence Blue Cross. There are an awful lot of prizes that will be given out also during the course of that day. Tickets can be purchased at Phillies.com. Cole Hamels leads it off here in the bottom of the 5th. Sarge, we have not wanted for pitching in this series between the Phillies and the Braves, particularly from the Phillies side of the ball.
Yeah, been good pitching on both sides. Not a lot of scoring. Usually just the opposite at this time of the year because pitchers usually seem to slow down a little bit more, where those hitters are really starting to see everything the way that they should from the standpoint of off-speed pitches. Great game, too, by Kyle last night. Giving his team a chance to win.
1-2 to Hamels. Kyle had a good changeup last night, had a good cutter. Tied his career high in strikeouts with 8. On the other side, Alex Wood was okay early, but then started to struggle as his outing moved on. And Hamels has struck out back-to-back curves, 4 strikeouts for Mahal. And now back to the top of the order for Cesar Hernandez.
Actually talked with Rich Doobie and Ryan Sandberg about that 2-2 fastball by Papelbon last night. Not the pitch, though, that either one of them really wanted. Would have been something more like that split, more like maybe the breaking ball.
Simmons gathers that one, but he has no play at first, and Hernandez is aboard with an infield single.
3-2, maybe you could understand it, but with a 2-2, trying to sneak a fastball by a guy looking fastball, it just doesn't make sense, especially after seeing the way he swung at the off-speed pitches early in the count, almost in the dirt. Those are things you got to recognize there as a pitcher. Wanted to ask Papelbon about it, but didn't get a chance to talk with him. He was out in the field.
So over to first, Hernandez is back. Well, last night, Pap allowed that game-tying home run. Of course, the Phillies won it in the bottom of the ninth. It was the 3rd time this year that Pap has been credited with a blown save and a win in the same game. It's the highest total by any pitcher this season. He's got 5 wins, and he's always the first one out there after Phillies get that walk-off victory, because it's a sense of relief, I would think, for even him.
Well, it is after you come back and win. I mean, that's just like not driving in a run there from third base, less than 1 out, and then all of a sudden you have someone come up with that 2-out base hit, maybe, picking you up.
Down the left field line. If it stays fair, it's gone. It is hooking foul. Just foul. Wow. Rollins had a good view of it. He was staying around home plate. He could see it hooking.
Yeah. He actually started off there. Pretty good swing. See how his foot is down? We talked about him being more of a low ball hitter. That just foul. You can see right on the other side. Would have barely had distance too, though, but it would have been out.
On keeping Hernandez close, thinking he may be running.
Yeah, that comes from the dugout too, though, to throw over. Catcher will relay that sign there.
That'll be out of play. It remains 0-2. one's 0 for 1. He walked and scored his first time up, flied out his last time.
All those signs in that sequence. Paul actually getting his switch. The last one, fastball in. That's the pitch he wanted to get in. Up and in on him.
Fights it off the other way. That's a base hit. Hernandez around second. He's going to go to third. The throw from Turdoslavich on one hop. He is out at third base. He hesitated just a little bit going around second. Second outfield assist of the year for Turdoslavich.
If you're going to hesitate on it, you got to stay right there. Again, that play right in front of you to the side. You can pick up your coach as you go towards second. Take a look at it. Is that ball right there? You have to have already made up your mind. He's picking up the coach by then. It's just really too late. You could see him coming in there right on his leg there. No chance for him to get there. Thought process was good, though, trying to get to third base. Again, you make that up when you first start that first step there, and if you hesitate again, you got to stay there because you're unsure.
Yeah, there's just a little subtle hesitation around second, and that split second may have cost him, that extra half step or two that he needed.
Yeah, good hitting too by J-Ro, keeping that ball on the line or on the ground. Those are the things that Sandberg wants all of those hitters to do. More line drives, a little more consistent there at the plate.
Rollins did steal a base his last time aboard. That was in the first. That scored on a double by Utley. Toyota Major League Scoreboard, the Cardinals are leading the Pirates 5-0 at the bottom of the second. Matt Carpenter, who leads second baseman in a lot of offensive categories, has had a good start to the day.
Yeah, he scored over 100 runs already, 47 doubles this kid has.
Pirates trail the Cardinals by a half game.
No clear cut for anyone for the MVP, I would think, so far. Some guys that have driven in a lot of runs, like Brandon Phillips, over 100 or right at 100, not hitting for a high average.
Utley pulls it over the glove of Ugla, and Rollins will stop at second. For years, StubHub has been the place to find great Phillies tickets. And this season, you can get more with your tickets thanks to StubHub Fan Rewards. So get to StubHub and grab your seats today. Well, Darren Ruff is now up with runners on first and second. Ruff is 1 for 2. He had a single through the middle his first time up that drove in a run.
Key situation for him. Not so much as it is the hit, as it is the thought process and trying to hit the ball hard. Yeah, not a home run situation. If you get it, you'll take it. 2 outs, just trying to get your pitch, put a good swing on it. Guys that drive in runs, you got to relish the opportunity anytime you get a runner in scoring position, whether or not it's at second or third base. For me, that's where his value will be, driving in runs. 80 or so. Ought to get him in that lineup on a daily basis.
He got a curveball and he hooks it foul. 1 ball and 2 strikes. That's where the count remains. That gentleman says he's okay. He was standing up. I don't know if he was standing up to make a play on it, or he was just standing up, but it got him.
Wicked line drives that go into the stands. And any time you have a soft throwing left-hander or left-hander that throws a lot of breaking balls, you'll get a lot of balls that'll be pulled on the left side. Take a look at it. He tries the basket catch, and you got to look at the ball, though. He's kind of looking around a little bit.
Hey, give him credit for staying in there.
Those are the kind you want to maybe let it hit on the ground and then pick it up, although he did make sure it didn't hit anyone else.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Ruff. Braves have bullpen action behind Mahone. They had the pitch. Ground ball toward third. Chris Johnson is there. Side is retired, so Phillies get 3 hits in the inning, but do not score. They leave a couple. We leave for the top of the 6th inning. It's a 2-1 Phillies lead. Showing the form at the plate we have become accustomed to in the Phillies catcher over the years. Carlos Ruiz got off to a very slow start with the bat this season following his suspension. The man behind the plate has since turned things around at the plate, batting well above .300 since the beginning of August. His offense has returned, and he is delivering with power and extra base hits. Juch's production is a welcome addition to the Phils lineup, and it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Well, there is Carlos Ruiz, who was not playing today, but could play if needed. Radoslavich leads it off against Hamels here in the 6th. Changeup is low. It's 1 ball and no strikes. He grounded out the third his first time up. Pitcher spot is due up next. A little low, 2-0. Hamels sits August 1st. Had an ERA coming into this ball game of 1.90. That was fourth in Major League Baseball. Now the leader since the 1st of August is Jose Fernandez from the Marlins. That's under 1, 0.98. That's the rookie from the Miami Marlins. But that's how good Cole has been with that 1.90 ERA, and that looked like a pretty good pitch that was just called ball 4. And that ends a stretch of 11 in a row retired by Hamels. It's only the 2nd base runner of the day for the Braves. Now Mahalem, you figure, is going to be up there to try to sacrifice Terdoslavich up to second.
Well, Cole would like to get him on maybe a little pop-up.
Bunts at it, misses, 0-1.
That's why you will throw high fastballs, hope that they're able to pop that ball up. Now his thinking is, hey, maybe I can go in and get this strikeout, not advance that runner over.
Terry Pendleton just threw both arms up in the air for some reason. I don't know why. Mahalem does bunt back toward the mound. Hamels off the hill, has a play at first, and that's it. So the sacrifice works for Mahalem. 1-4 on the putout.
You kind of thought about it for a minute, just thinking about throwing it to second base. One thing, though, when you're doing that, you got to make sure you have that runner. Other than that, don't want to take a chance because you mess around and have two runners on as opposed to the one.
Here's B.J. Upton. He's grounded out twice. Once to short, once to third. Upton is 0 for 10.
You can see that average, not very good with runners in scoring position. Again, he's a much better hitter than what he has shown this year. A lot of times, too, these guys will get big contracts and think maybe they have to do something a little different as opposed to just staying within yourself. Obviously, nobody's going out there just trying to be a bad player and not give that 100%. But when you get paid, it will do that to you because you feel that you have to do that. Have to have a good year.
Well, you wonder if he's going to change a lot in the offseason.
Well, he's going to have to do something. You know, the one thing, I mean, you get a pass simply on your year because of the team winning. You know, that's the most important thing is for your team to be in the playoffs. Looks like they got a good chance to make it.
Well, they've got the best record in the National League. They have the second best record overall. They're 85-56. The Red Sox 87-57. He did not think that was a strike, but he's been butting heads with the umpires the whole weekend.
Well, if this is a close pitch, he'll get called out on that one too. He's had a hold inside and one that's been outside.
Swing and a miss. He got him. Strikeout number 5 or 6, I should say, for Hamels. Now there are 2 outs. Simmons is due up. Modern Family is coming to PHL 17 starting September 23rd. Catch the #1 comedy in America twice a night. All your favorite characters, all your favorite scenes, all your favorite episodes. Modern Family premieres September 23rd at 7:30 and 10:30. So Simmons is 0 for 2. He's flied out. He's grounded out. Phillies lead it by 1. In the dirt. Good play by Kratz.
Simmons should be their shortstop for just a long time in coming. He's going to get better as a hitter, get smarter.
The fact that they brought him up last year just to tighten up their defense more than anything else, and then he turned into a pretty good offensive player this year with 15 home runs and 52 runs batted in.
Yeah, not bad. You take that too from a shortstop. Again, he will get smarter. Has one of the best arms, obviously, at shortstop in the league, if not the best.
Over to the left side. She's going to have to hurry. Picks it up, throws on one hop, dug out by Franzen. Side is retired. Almost looked like he did that on purpose. Get a little extra kick on that hop. No runs, no hits. One man left in scoring position. We've played 5.5. The Phils still hanging on to a 1-run lead. Lottery benefits older Pennsylvanians every day. And by Chevrolet, visit your local dealer at ChevyDealer.com. Home half of the 6th. The Phillies up 2-1. Franzen will lead it off. Ashe and Freddie Galvis. Time now for our Hyundai defensive play of the game. Cody Ashe, I think I like watching him play defense as much as I like him playing offense.
Well, in that play there, he actually surrounds the ball, picks up his own hop. More importantly, he throws it over there in that vicinity. Give credit to Franzen, however, as he stretches over there. But he's filled like he's been here the whole time. And you're right, there's our defensive Hyundai play of the day.
Brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers. And Franzen will lead it off. Franzen's 1 for 2. Down the right field line. That's slicing away from Turdoslavich. It is foul. Oh. He's going to look up at the wind and say, really? Today?
Now that ball there was slicing, and the higher it is, the more it's going to slice. Here it is there. The ball's going to slice toward that line, and it will be foul. Boy, look at the distance, though, that he had on that ball. Franzen talks hitting, likes to hit. The most important thing, too, about the hitting, you got to have a game plan when you're going to the plate.
Did you talk to him about San Jose State losing to Stanford last night?
No, I sure didn't.
It's probably better off. Wait a day or so.
He gets upset about a lot of different things, too. And mostly about being off balance at that plate, knowing that if you have your balance, usually good things will happen. Sandberg likes his effort. that he has when he puts him in that lineup.
Well, he had him last year in the minor leagues. Saw what he did last year up here in the majors. Was with him in September. You know, they're pretty comfortable together.
Yeah.
Just a bit outside. 3-2.
Yeah, that's what you want. You want a battle. You want that pitcher to know that you're in a war up at that plate. And when everybody does that, from top to bottom, you wear the pitcher down mentally. That's when he gets tired, when you're falling off, especially some of his good pitches, then come up with a base hit somewhere. But even not coming up with the base hit, fouling off a lot of pitches, everybody having and being mentally strong at the plate, you're going to have good results.
Inside, ball 4. After a few foul balls, he works out a walk. Leadoff batter's aboard for Ashe. He's 0 for 2.
Yeah, walked in earlier with a guy I used to hit against, Pete Vukovich, who works now for the Seattle Mariners as one of their head scouts. Yeah, one of the better relievers there in the game, and Raleigh Fingers. Raleigh had 3 pitches: fastball, slider, and the forkball. He said that with the game on the line, Raleigh would never come inside.
Ugla bobbles that ball. Hit toward the middle by Ashe. That puts runners on first and second. I would think that's an E4.
Well, don't think he would have had a chance for a double play, but certainly maybe getting one batter, or one runner, I should say. Not a strong point there in his game. Defense, you can see as he was trying to transfer the ball, didn't get it over. He caught it fine, but never looked it into his hand or the glove. Just tried to flip it a little bit. That's a play, however, second baseman should make.
Well, nobody out. Here's Freddie Galvis. All right, continue your story about Pete Vukovich. Did you ask him about his acting career? You know, he was in Major League. He was the villain in Major League.
Well, we didn't talk about that. Talk more about pitching and hitting.
Well, he was a hitter.
Basically. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I only knew him throwing fastballs and sliders, and every now and then putting one in your ribs.
Outside, 1-1.
But nevertheless, talking about Raleigh Fingers, and when the game is on the line, he wanted to more or less go to his strength, and said that if a guy's going to hit it out, it was going to be either straightaway center or to right field, because he was going to keep the ball the other way. The key is, though, being able to locate and throw the ball where you want to.
Gentleman in front of us missed that ball, and the reason is because he had that camera in his hand and he didn't want to damage the camera.
Wow, that's no excuse.
I don't know if he's red with embarrassment or he just got a little too much sun the last couple of days.
Well, there's his chance, and he knows that you don't get that chance very often as it drops down. Oh, well, here it is again.
We got angles everywhere on that play. Everybody's on their toes.
Oh, he just can't believe it. Oh, man.
How about the young lady that's with him? She slapped him in the back.
Well, I mean.
Out towards short, that might be 2. Simmons shielded by Franz and able to handle it. And it's a 6-4-3 double play.
Don't know how he saw it. Don't know how he saw the ball there. That ball go between his legs?
Through between Franzen's legs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good play. Be able to catch that ball and to throw it. Let's take a look at it and see exactly where it did go. Actually jumped over it as it goes kind of between, but he's stayed right with it, got him by plenty.
So they'll walk Kratz intentionally, and Hamels will bat with 2 outs here in the bottom of the 6th.
I gotta tell you, he's gonna probably remember that for a long time. Dropping that ball.
Phillies fantasy camp is open for that guy and everybody else over the age of 30. It's your chance of a lifetime. January 22nd to the 26th, 2014 in Clearwater, Florida. Package includes hotel accommodations, practice with and instruction from guys like Greg Lazinski. He would have helped that guy. John Kruk, Mike Lieberthal, Jim Eisenreich would have helped. Fantasy game versus the Legends at Bright House Field. For tickets or for information, call 610-520-3400. Cole Hamels a swing and a miss. It's 0-1. I think when your inning's done here, I think you should go get a baseball and bring it down to him and give him some tips on how to catch.
I got to tell you, you know what? You guys are always thinking, hey, but I'm one step ahead of you. I was actually thinking that myself. You know that? He might get a little angry. He might get a little angry with me for doing something like that.
I don't think he'll get angry with you. I think he'll appreciate a visit from the Sarge. 1-2 to Hamels. Big spot to try to get this extra run in. Tough spot, though, for Hamels against a left-hander.
Yeah, you don't want to just stay close to this club, too. They have a habit of doing heroic things.
Swing and a miss. Side is retired. So the Phillies get a couple more base runners, but do not score. We've played our first 6 innings. To the 7th we go, and the Phils lead it by 1. That poor guy.
That guy's never going to get over that, is he? He's still sitting down here in front of us, and he was very upset about that. As we look at the Honda Dealers game summary, that's the only hit of the game for the Atlanta Braves, but it was some hit, 480 feet. Mahalam's gotten some outs when he had to. Cole Hamels has been tremendous, as he's going to get Freddie Freeman on a hard one-hopper to Cole Hamels for 1 out here in the 7th inning, and he got himself a baseball.
Yeah, Mike Stiles, who's one of the Phillies vice presidents, came over and handed him that baseball. There's Mike in the pink. He's one of the best guys you'll ever meet. And he recognizes a tough play and a tough moment.
Yeah, well, look, Mike Stiles was a former United States attorney for southeastern Pennsylvania. That's a pretty big job. He was a federal judge. And now he's here telling us whether it's going to rain or not.
She said it was not going to.
Right.
Today.
So and he's giving out baseballs to fans. So his third life has been very interesting.
He did it very subtly.
Yeah, a lot less pressure than those other jobs he had.
Chris Johnson's the hitter. He's 0 for 2. 10 ground outs today for Hamels.
Probably some attorneys and all saying, I know that guy, don't I? Did I stand in front of him one time?
He wasn't smiling when I stood in front of him.
What did I have to
Although
say?
He probably was.
You know, what did I have to call him, Your Honor?
Good change up, 1 and 2.
Really
He's allowed 2 base runners today,
really
a home run and a walk.
It really is a shame the Phillies aren't going to postseason play because this guy's dealing right now.
Well, that, and you combine him with Lee, boy.
Oh, he has really got it going right now.
Now the 1-2 pitch. And a called strike 3. Johnson knew it. No bark in this time. 7 strikeouts for Hamels.
He's so hard to guess with right now because he's able to get everything over at any time.
These lucky fans are today's Citizens 7. They were receiver prize pack courtesy of Citizens Bank. Citizens Bank with the most 7-day branches in the Philadelphia area. To find a branch near you, go to citizensbank.com. Well, here's Gaddis, who I think is going to get something soft in this at bat, only because he's hit the last 2 balls pretty hard. And he does, and he hits it hard again. That is deep, and that's not coming back.
This is ridiculous.
Well, it's a 2-2 game.
He threw a big old slow hook, it looked like, and he stayed back and hit it a mile.
He's got both hits today. It's a 2-2 game. That one wasn't as long as his first one.
Yeah, but that was really long.
It sure was. He now has 18 home runs and 50 runs batted in.
Hamels can't figure it out. Cole Hamels is so good here today, and yet Evan Gaddis looks like he knows what's coming. He is right on a slow breaking ball, and look how deep that goes. And that looks like a pop-up compared to the other one. That's 400 feet.
Gerald Laird is 0 for 2. First 2 home run game of his career. Well, looks like it's another tight one for the Phils. I guess it was anyway.
Yeah, well, with these guys, anytime you're in 1-run games, it's a problem because they have so many guys. They'll strike out, 7 times in a row, and then somebody will pop one. Got about 900 foot of homers today.
Seriously. Swing and a miss. A change up. Side is retired. 8 strikeouts for Hamels this afternoon. He's allowed only 2 hits. Unfortunately, both hits are solo home runs by that guy right there. El Oso Blanco, as they called him in winter ball, has made this a 2-2 game here at Citizens Bank. Here's the question. Which Atlanta Brave holds the club single season record with 29 intentional walks while hitting?
Well, you have to think it's got to be a feared power hitter.
Feared power hitter.
And they've had so many. They had Aaron, they had Matthews, they had the other Murph.
Right.
They had
not Craig Murphy.
The other Murph, that's what I mean.
Yep.
Chipper. Andres Galarraga was there.
Ooh, the big cat.
Bob Horner's another one.
Well, just so you know, out of the 35 names that you've thrown out there,
5 so far.
One of them is the right answer.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, give me a hint then.
I just gave you a hint.
Well, that's 1 out of 5. That's 20%
You just kept
shot.
rambling, though.
Well, Tip gave me a couple too.
What did Tip say?
Tip told me Horner, but not as the end. Chipper.
Chipper Jones is an excellent guess. It is incorrect. It is the other Murph.
It'll be Murph, won't it? Yeah, I should have just guessed because of what a great guy he is.
Dale Murphy in 1987, 29 intentional walks.
Must go along with the name.
That's right. Although he probably didn't get squirted with shaving cream as often as our Murph. Oh, it's time now for our W.B. Mason delivery of the game.
This is just sick today what this guy's done. Cole's given up 2 hits, about 900 foot of homers. Look at Hamels. He took one look at it. That thing's almost 500 feet, 480 feet. Now they're saying this one's 385. He had to supply his own power. You see, Hamels like, you got to be kidding me. So that's a total of 865 feet of W.B. Mason deliveries of the game.
Well, Evan Gaddis, the only one that has solved Cole Hamels today.
And he hit it, about a 400 foot out in his other at bat, dead center.
True. So Paul Maholm's day is done. Hamels is not. Maholm went 6 innings. He allowed 7 hits and 2 runs. He'll turn it over to Anthony Varvaro.
They were talking in the first inning about Hamels had to be shocked. They got him 2. Well, that's it.
Yeah, they had base runners, though. The Phillies have left 7 so far.
Had a couple guys thrown out. Well, one guy thrown out twice on the bases today, Cesar Hernandez.
He shows bunt, takes a strike. It's 0-1. Hernandez is 1 for 2. He was hit by a pitch his first time up. Phillies bullpen is quiet, as you would suspect.
Yeah, especially with the pitcher spot having made the last out.
2 balls and 1 strike now to Hernandez. Trying to get on to make something happen here in the bottom of the 7th. Three and 1. And now a trip to the mound by Gerald Laird. Varvaro pitched in last night's ball game. In fact, he was one of 6 pitchers used out of the bullpen by the Braves. And ball 4. So Hernandez works out a walk. That brings Jimmy Rollins up. Sunday, September 22nd, Fan Appreciation Day here at Citizens Bank Park. As the Phillies take on the New York Mets, all fans coming to the ballpark that day receive the 2014 schedule magnet. A lot of prizes, a lot of surprises. The final home game of the year. Tickets are available at Phillies.com. Today's a good crowd, 38,706.
And see if they're here to see Jimmy Rollins. If he's going to bunt right now, or they're going to give him a shot at hooking one in the hole to right field to an outfielder who's very deep.
I think you're going to have a conservative base runner at Cesar Hernandez.
Very.
You know, Juan Samuel was, I'm sure, calling him over to third the last time, but he hesitated just a little bit at second base.
He shut it down a little bit right as he was going into second, and that's one of those ones where you almost have to hold him then after he did that. But it happened so fast, it may have been hard to see.
Rollins takes outside, 1-0.
Well, no look at a bunt right there, no indication of one. And now with a 1-0 count, he'll give him the hole to shoot through. 5 double plays in 45 opportunities for Barbaro. But they're playing a no doubles defense, and you can get him to third base on a base hit to right field. A lot easier this time. Last time Jimmy was batting right-handed, so he was playing up a little bit on his offside and got to it a lot quicker.
Curveball high, 2-1.
There's a little wildness in it because it's a great hit and run count with a good combination to do it, but yet you don't want to necessarily do it and make him chase a bad ball where he maybe could go to 3-1. Like that. See, that would have been, if you play hit and run on a pitch like that, now you've got a guy chasing a high fastball like that, the odds are he'll swing through it and you're going to throw him out at second. And that's something managers always think about when they go hit and run. One of the things is, what kind of pitcher I have out there? Am I going to just give up a strike to a guy who's all over the place?
3 balls, 1 strike to Rollins with Hernandez at first. And Hernandez will watch as Rollins lifts that to right. Playable for Durdoslavich. And there's 1 out.
I think he chased a bad ball there. He kept throwing those high fastballs that the young player, Cesar Hernandez, was very, very patient on. Yeah, that's not a strike. And he knows it. And it's a tough pitch to get on top of to do anything with because this guy throws so hard.
It's a look of disgust right now for Rollins.
I think he knows he got himself out there, and he could have a first and second, nobody out here.
Chase Dudley is 2 for 3. And a throw over, and Hernandez is back.
Really wild high.
That was close.
Yeah, for a guy who's been that wild high.
He's going to think about that swing and that at bat for a little bit of time. He's going to have one more chance, you would think. Chopper back towards short. That might be 2. Simmons flips to second for 1. Uggla's turn in time. A 6-4-3 double play. So the Phils get the leadoff batter aboard, but cannot score or advance him. We go to the 8th, all even at 2. the official HD triple play provider of your Phillies. By McDonald's. I'm loving it. And by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most innovative lineup ever. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Phillies and the Braves tied at 2. Seems unfair, but Cole Hamels has allowed only 2 hits. Both are solo home runs. He'll face the bottom of the order, Ugla, Turdoslavich, and then the pitcher's spot.
The only positive he has out of that is they weren't paint scrapers. Or landed in the flower pots or something out there. Oof, they were long ones.
Ugla's 0 for 2. He has struck out twice. Just missed with these last 2 pitches, but it's now 3-0.
Yeah, he tried to get himself out there in a 2-0 changeup. Hope Ugla might jump at it and roll one over, and he didn't. These guys have faced each other so many times. You think Ugla look fastball here. See if he gets one.
Nope, he didn't get one, and it's ball 4. It's just the second walk issued by Hamels. And Turdoslavich is due up, and it's time for the Major League Notebook. Murph?
All right, T-Mac, brought to you by Gwinnett Mercy College. And Mets starter Matt Harvey, who has been on the shelf since the last week of August, is headed to see Dr. James Andrews this week to get a second opinion on his partially torn UCL in that elbow of his. The Mets organization has said that after he sees Dr. Andrews, they will make a decision on whether or not he is going to have surgery and get that fixed. And, guys, the International Olympic Committee announced yesterday that the Summer Games of 2020 will be in Tokyo, Japan, but they also announced that baseball or softball will not be a part of it again. Of course, that went away in 2012. They decided to reinstate wrestling into the Summer Olympics, but baseball, softball, and squash are going to have to wait a little bit longer. There was some thought that if Tokyo got the games, because of the popularity of baseball in Tokyo, that they would add it back in, but that's not the case as that ball rolls foul. So no baseball in the Olympics in 2020, guys.
Yeah, such a shame that baseball and softball weren't re-added. I know Bud Selig, the commissioner, and a lot of other folks have done an awful lot of work to try to make sure that baseball was added again. Maybe down the road it can happen again. You know, the United States 18 under team was just over in Taiwan, and earlier today won the 18 under championship over Japan. Rob Cooper, who's the new head coach at Penn State University, was the coach of that team too. And you know, it's a global sport, there's no doubt about it, but for one reason or another they've just decided that it doesn't fit still in the Olympics.
Yeah, a great place would have been for Tokyo too, because they really are big baseball fans in Tokyo. That was a heck of a play that Kratz just made when he went down there and knocked that ball foul on that bunt that got by Ashe, because that thing looked like it had a chance to come back. Really heads up.
2-1 to Turdoslavich. He does bunt again in the air, and Franzen's unable to get to it.
Turdoslavich looks very uncomfortable bunting. He looks like one of those guys that probably been a middle of the order hitter throughout his career, hasn't had to bunt that often, but they're going to hit for the pitcher, obviously, so they're trying to get the go-ahead run into second base and use that potent back of their bullpen.
Turdoslavich 18 home runs, 58 runs batted in.
Now they'll take
the minors.
Yeah, now you would think they take it off.
Phillies have bullpen action, so do the Braves. 2-2 pitch. We'll have to wait. Phillies have B.J. Rosenberg and Cesar Jimenez both throwing.
Gave him a throw over there just to check out Turdoslavich. You see those two guys warming up, and there's no sign of a bunt with 2 strikes.
Back toward the middle. Rollins is there. Steps on the bag, fires to first in time.
That's why they tried to bunt. The Phillies get the best they could get out of that. They get the double play ball. Looked like Cole threw him a changeup too. He's way out in front, and you see him one-handed with 2 strikes. Jimmy, nice job. Get the bag, use it for protection, jump over Ugly, and get a lot on the throw.
He got a lot on that throw. David Carpenter is in the bullpen. Meeting on the mound with Justin Upton scheduled to hit. Here comes Rich Doobie. He'll come out.
I was going to say, it's funny, Rich Doobie usually comes out when there's a pinch hitter, but they didn't need him this time because it's Justin Upton. Like, what are you going to say? But they're still going to talk about it. It's not like you're getting surprised by a guy off the bench right now as an extra man. You know, they didn't necessarily go over him in the hitters meeting today when they were doing their prep for the lineup. They go over the lineup. Sometimes you'll hear, you know, they maybe talk about some other guys, but for the most part, they go over the starting lineup.
Cole Hamels has retired the Braves in order 4 times this afternoon. Each time the Phillies do that, Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports, giving you all your favorite sports all year long. A liner foul. It's 0-1.
Well, this
nice play.
Yeah, that was a great one-handed catch there. That's why this team is so dangerous, though, with all the guys that can hit home runs. Your buddy behind the plate right now saying, what couldn't that have been me?
Yeah. He's probably hoping that we didn't bring it up again.
Sorry.
Although he's got a lot of FaceTime today.
Yeah.
And he's still got the girl.
Yeah. Still holding hands.
He
had a camera in his other hand.
He did.
I mean, really.
I think she was just showing him how he grabbed the baseball, the kid down the left field line.
That would be overkill. It's like playing golf with somebody that tell you your ball just went in the water and you're well aware of that. I know it went in the water. You didn't have to tell me.
2-1 pitch to Upton. Good change up, 2-2.
Must have been there
more than one time.
Oh yeah.
Now the 2-2 pitch to Justin Upton. Swing and a miss. He got him with a changeup. 9 strikeouts for Hamels. If this is his last inning, he's finished strong. No runs, no hits, and nobody left. Would he and Eric Kratzby hugging in the dugout. He was outstanding today. Just 2 hits allowed. A solo home run. 2 solo home runs by Evan Gattis. Time now for a Coors Light Freeze Camp. Oh, so close. So close.
Talk about not showing it again. We're talking about it.
Coors Light Freeze Camp brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light, but all's well that ends well. And this is how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. He's not going to feel his hand for the next 3 days, but that was a great grab.
But that lady right there all turtled up, and he saved her.
Justin Upton stays in the game to play right field for the Braves. David Carpenter comes into the game out of the bullpen, 3-0 with a 1.94 earned run average.
David Carpenter's done some job for them this year. Look at his strikeouts and innings pitched. 215 opponent's batting average.
Well, he's been to the big leagues before. He just never has had this kind of success.
That's why with relievers, you just never know. You can catch lightning in a bottle, or you can have a lot of problems too with it.
Darren Ruff is 1 for 3. He had a single his first time. It'll be Ruff, Franzen, and Kodiashi. Breaking ball right out of the chute. It's 0-1. For the moment, the Phillies bullpen is quiet. I mentioned that Hamels' day is most likely done after 8 solid innings.
Oh, he was really good here today. Came into the game with 5th lowest run support in Major League Baseball. 3.36 while he's in the game.
Well, I'm sure he's going to be in that neighborhood again.
Yep. Less today.
One and two.
These are the kind of additions to your club that win pennants for you nowadays, because the back end of the bullpen is so important. He's competitive out there. Darren Ruff battling back from 0-2. Kevin Franzen on deck, who really can maneuver the baseball if the Phillies can get Darren Ruff on base.
Three balls, 2 strikes. Out toward right field. That's well hit. Upton's going back toward the wall. It is gone! And the Phillies take the lead here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Darren Ruff got it caught up in the wind. He goes the opposite way. It's a 3-2 ball game.
Well, what a great at bat too, to come back from 0-2 to get to 3-2 to get a pitch away, and as Tom said, use the wind. Talked early in the ball game how the wind was really going to help you towards right and right center as this game went along, and that thing got up in the wind and just jumped. It looked like a double off the bat for sure, because he crushes it. Fastball came running back a little bit. Carpenter knew that it was hit hard and it was not a good spot. And the fans had a clue too that baby was out, and so did the bench. A little motion from Darren Ruff too as he went around first base.
Sure was. Kevin Franzen hits the next pitch up the right field line and just out of the reach of Freddie Freeman. The wind got that one too. Uh-oh. For the Braves, you're sitting there thinking, no, no, no.
Hit the concrete down there pretty hard, and the fence. There's Darren Ruff, who found the right part of the ballpark. You hit that ball to left and left center, it's going to get knocked down. It's a heck of an effort by Freddie Freeman. Really great effort. And may have stubbed his toes going in there because his feet went hard into that concrete. He's been 3 good games. Trying to get Papelbon up again, you would think.
Nope, it's B.J. Rosenberg who's up in the pen.
Well, there you go. This will be a real good opportunity for him. Try and pick up a save.
Franzen chops it to second. Ugla. And there's one away. Kodiashi's due up.
Top of the orders due up for the Braves: B.J. Upton, Simmons, Freeman.
Darren Ruff's home run is 13th of the year. A couple RBIs today, so 23 on the season.
And a bunch of 3-2 counts in the last 2 games too, which is encouraging. That's one of the things you saw with him last year when he was up for the month of September, how many times he ran deep counts, and that has not been his MO this year since he's been here. But in the last couple games, a lot of it.
Darren Ruff has a lot of solo home runs too this year, which is why his RBI total is so low. 0-2 to Cody Ashe.
Light tower coming across. You can tell it's September now. The shadow's coming a lot faster. Light tower coming across the mound area. Good time to have a lead.
And a called strike 3. Ashe knew it. Second time he's been struck out today. 2 outs, and Freddie Galvis is due up.
Backdoor breaking ball action there from Carpenter.
David Carpenter just reminded both Chris Johnson and Freddie Freeman to look out for the bunt. With Galvis up, he's 1 for 3. So Johnson came in. I guess Carpenter said he has first base. 0-1.
Yeah, they don't want to cheat on the pull side here for a bunt in case he were to give him an easy double down the line and get into scoring position. So they'll do that on the offside a little bit.
0-2. Hamels 8 innings today. Just 2 hits.
Pitcher a record too.
On the winning side.
Yeah.
Swing and a miss. Side is retired. So back-to-back strikeouts for Carpenter. But Darren Ruff has given the Phillies a chance to win it in the top of the 9th inning. His opposite field home run off David Carpenter. Yeah, you're right. It did sound good off the bat. Got up into the wind, got out of the yard. It's a 1-run lead. Well, changes for the Phillies as we go to the top of the 9th inning. They lead it 3-2. Darren Ruff moves from right field over to first base, and Roger Bernardina comes on to play right field. He'll bat 9th. And the new pitcher is B.J. Rosenberg. Rosenberg looking for his first save. He's on instead of Jonathan Papelbon. His 14th ball game overall, 2-0 with a 3.09 ERA.
Well, there's a lot of experimenting going on around here during this month of September, and here's something new tonight, or this afternoon. Is Papelbon 2 games in a row? He's not into this one. Give B.J. Rosenberg a chance and see what happens. There's Ryan Sandberg saying, come on in a little bit to Cody Ashe in case he may try to bunt here.
Well, they do have Diekman throwing too, and that might be for Freddie Freeman, who's up 3rd in this inning. B.J. Upton takes outside. It's 1-0.
He's very high on these 2 guys, is Ryan Sandberg, on Rosenberg and Diekman. What they've done so far, it's a different animal, boy, when you come in and do these. There's, he was talking about Martin today, that he might get him into a game sooner or later.
Upton hits one to shallow right center field. Bernardina, shielding his eyes from the sun, makes the catch. And 1 out here in the 9th inning.
A whole different world when you come in and pitch in the 9th inning in the major leagues in a 1-run game. And it's really a good time to try and find out about some guys.
Cole Hamels 8 innings today, and hoping that there are 2 more outs recorded to give him his 7th win. Here's Andrelton Simmons. He's 0 for 3. He tied the game yesterday in the top of the 9th inning. Towering fly ball. 3rd base side. Rollins and Ashe battling the wind, and Ashe makes the catch. Wow. He may have had a tune going around in his head. That ball was moving so much.
Aren't many guys that are going to hit homers high in the air to left and left center, except maybe Gaddis. See, he thought that thing was going to go a lot further because it was. But then all of a sudden Wrigley Field came up and started blowing it back towards home plate. That is some big time wind all of a sudden here, going from left field to right field.
Oh, don't forget, coming up after the ball game, it's the Phillies post-game show. Larry Bowa, Mike Missinelli give you the best analysis in town and break down all today's action. That's next on the Phillies post-game show, live from Sugar House Casino. Now they're going to stay with Rosenberg. He's thrown just 3 pitches. He's gotten 2 outs, and he'll face the right-hander in Freddie Freeman. He's got Johnson on deck.
Yeah, these guys have been pretty anxious, but they're used to hitting homers.
Freeman's 0 for 3 today. Throw him a breaking ball. It's 1-0.
Well, there's 2 reasons to stay away from his pull power today. The normal one, it's his pull power. The other one is that gale blowing out there right now.
Ground ball foul. It's 1-2. Very nice play.
Standing play.
That's Alicia down the first base line. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs.
And that's where they have Darren Ruff right on the first base line.
Phillies try to go for their first series sweep since June. Try to sweep out the Braves. And the 1-2 pitch. Fly ball down the left field line. Can't give up on it with the wind. Ashe gives it a look. It's back a few rows.
Yeah, that thing started to come back. Just stay away from him. That's what they need to do right now. He beat you with a home run to left and left center into this wind. That's Gaddis power.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
Going right through that shadow, too.
And now the pitch to Freeman. Down and away, went with an off-speed pitch, 2-2. Well, there's some life in the ballpark this weekend with the Braves in town. The Phillies have won the first 2. They're looking for the series sweep. This afternoon, 38,706. And B.J. Rosenberg trying to finish it off. And the pitch. Fastball swung on and missed it. 90 miles an hour, and B.J. Rosenberg has a 1-2-3 top of the ninth inning, and the Phillies have swept out the Atlanta Braves. It's their first series sweep since June, and it's the first time they've swept the Braves since September of 2011. Oh, it's been great around the ballpark this weekend. A lot of energy. The fans have stayed till the very end, and the Phillies have had an awful lot of clutch hitting. Today it was Darren Ruff, his opposite field home run in the bottom of the 8th inning, gave the Phils the 1-run lead. They've been good in these 1-run ball games lately.
Well, the Chevrolet players of the game, Tom, you're talking about guys that are getting tryouts to see whether they belong up here. You know this guy belongs up here. He's one of the best in baseball, and he is on some run right now. He basically was perfect here today, except for Evan Gattis hitting 900 feet worth of homers off him. Great changeup. His fastball was real good again, putting it in good spots. Used his curveball a little bit, his cutter. Cole Hamels, just a tremendous job, and thankfully he was able to pick up the win because they get the big home run from Darren Ruff in the 8th inning while he's still the pitcher of record. He was 0-2 in the count, got the 3-2, got a fastball, came running back over the middle of the plate, bam, hit it up into that jet stream to right center field, gave the Phillies the lead. B.J. Rosenberg came on and finished it off with a save. Darren Ruff with another 3-2 count, another great at-bat. He's our Chevrolet co-player of the game, and he's down there with Murph. Murph?
All right, Wheels, yeah, you just explained it. What a great at-bat, first of all, as you battle back from an 0-2 count. You get the 3-2, and then you saw a pitch, and talk about hitting it where it was pitched, right?
Yeah, a little outside fastball. Made a poor swing at that first one, and then he made a good pitch. So, yeah, down 0-2, just tried to battle back, get a pitch I could drive. And it just left it up a little bit. So.
You'll forgive me? I knew that was coming too. All right, thanks, Ben. Well, here you go. I know, I did. I have to nowadays. Cole Hamels, you're able to get him the win as a pitcher of record, getting that home run. Just how good was he today as you played behind him, and how nice is it to get him that win?
Yeah, Cole was great. I mean, putting the ball wherever he wanted with multiple pitches. If you take Evan Gattis out of their lineup, he's throwing a no-hitter. So just a great effort out of him, and he's been doing that a lot for us lately. Our entire pitching staff has, and we've done a good job as of late.
And you guys continue to battle, winning 1-run games and sweeping out a team that has been just pretty dominant throughout the entire season in this division. That's got to be, if you set goals for yourself at this time of the season, that had to be one of them, so it must feel pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you get a chance to play, especially late here in the season, especially against a team like the Braves, you want to make the most of it. And we certainly did that here this weekend, and hopefully we can finish the season strong. Give the fans and the city something to look forward to next year.
All right, Darren, thanks. Congrats. Go enjoy it with your teammates. They took it easy on us today. Guys, back upstairs.
All right, Murph, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Another 1-run victory for the Phils, thanks to Darren Ruff and B.J. Rosenberg with his first Major League save. We'll be back to talk more about it right after this.